I found that teaching art where they don't think of me as a therapist, but they just enjoy learning, and we can talk, and they can explore their own gifts and have a way to express their feelings. It was therapy for them, but we just weren't calling it that.
Right. Hey Islanders, and welcome to episode 107 of the Camano Voice. Today I speak with the featured artist of the Loft for August. Please welcome Bobbi Samples. Hi, I'm Brandon Erickson, and you're listening to the Camano Voice podcast, where I interview folks around Camano Island and beyond. If you want to stay up to date on events, businesses, and even hear a little history of this area, subscribe to this podcast and share with your friends. Thanks for listening. Hey Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice, where we release a new episode every Tuesday. On this episode, I got to speak with Bobbi Samples, who is actually the featured artist of the month for August up in the Loft here at Camano Commons Marketplace. And she's also an art teacher, so she's actually going to be teaching some classes here in the Loft as well. So we dive into her journey of being an artist, how she got interested in art, and how there were certain people that really helped influence her in that, and some of the training and stuff that she was able to get. And also some of the places she got to live that really had a big influence on what art she focused on, and what she was doing there. So we get into all of that, and then she also talks about the pieces that she brought into the Loft and how it's kind of the story of her journey as an artist. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Bobbi Samples. Hey Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice. Today I'm here with the featured artist of the month of August in the Loft. Welcome to the podcast, Bobbi Samples.
Hello.
All right, so before we get started, tell us a little bit about Bobbi.
I am really enjoying living on Camano Island, and I love the beauty of the natural world and the beauty of people in the world. So I love to do art of landscapes and animals and people, and try to paint things that are meaningful.
Nice. All right. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Edmonds, just
Okay.
up from the water. My parents were teachers there, and my dad ended up being a principal. And I just loved living there because at the time it had wild places we could explore, and yet it had a cool little town, and we were close to Seattle, close to the country. It's just a great place to grow up.
Nice. Cool. And were you there all through high school then?
Yes, I was. We moved one time from the Edmonds area to the Meadowdale area, but it's still the same area, but lots of beaches and pretty views, and just a variety of people. It was a really good experience growing up there.
Nice. Is there any kind of hidden spots that you like to go that are still like hidden and fun to go to down there?
Oh, there was a boathouse called Haynes Wharf that we used to go to. There's like a beach. I think it's accessible now, but it's north of Edmonds, and it's on the other side of the railroad tracks, of course. But it's just beautiful, very natural, and yeah, and there's trails in the Snake Road area right near there. By Perrinville, there's trails there that you can walk where there's a creek. It's just got some really natural areas that you can feel like you're in the wilderness.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, that's nice. Yeah, I think Edmonds is kind of one of those, it's obviously grown a lot in population, but there's still like little pockets here and there that you can kind of feel like you're not in the big city.
It's interesting you'd ask that question, because it's been a sort of a specialty of mine since I was a little kid. I'd go find those places. Like when I was a little kid, there was a meadow with an old shack that somebody had lived in, and the coyotes visited there. And it's by Yost Park. There's a ravine in Edmonds, and my friends and I and my horse would go hang out down in the meadow. And yeah, so that's exactly what I love to do. One of the things I love to do.
Very cool. Have you got to do that on Camano and stuff? Kind of explore, find little spots?
Oh, yeah. It's, there's beautiful forests and places that are undeveloped, and beaches.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I tend to need to go there. The busy world, I like to go and have time to rest and look at the beauty and sketch and paint when I have time.
Yes. Yeah, finding time is the hard part right now.
Yes, it is.
All right. So while you were living in Edmonds, then, did you get started in art during that time?
I did. My mom was an artist, and she had projects going all the time. She had just been an artist since she was a child. Her father was a manager of World Book, and she was very interested in education and just so many things she taught me of how to draw and how to paint and how to enjoy art. She did portraits, and when I was in high school, she went back to college and got her degree in art education.
Okay.
So she'd bring her projects home from her art education, and I get to do them with her, things like bookbinding and batik and painting. So I kind of did a lot of projects in art and art education as a teenager, and even went to school with her sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Very cool. So then, did you get to, in those projects, did you think about those areas that you were, all those hidden spots that you would go and be in? Is that how you kind of brought that into your art? I mean, at that point you're young, but...
Yes. I just found a lot of peace and meaning from going to these natural places, and I even used to pretend I was a native person so that I could see the world through eyes that weren't involved in the development. Because growing up in Edmonds, Linwood grew up so fast, and the freeway went in when I was 10. That's how old I am.
Okay.
And so I just valued these beautiful places and wanted to, so I draw pictures and paint and wrote poetry about it and just kind of wanted to reflect the special things, focus on those things. I'd even go out in the woods and just sit on a stump and look at the trees and just, enjoy the sound of the brook, and or go down almost every afternoon down to the water and look at the view and want to paint that. And so I really had a desire to learn more about painting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Yeah, I think it is something, especially in today's world, even out here on Camano, we get very busy in our lives and everything that's going on. We don't always take that time to breathe, and especially after a year like 2020, taking some time to just slow down.
Yes.
And be in nature, I think.
Yeah, it's so healthy for you, too. Mm-hmm. And it's good to do with someone else. I used to take my little sister down with me to the beach, and we'd enjoy it together, and it's a great way to share time with people.
Nice. Very cool. So then, after you graduated high school, where did you go from there?
Well, I ended up living on Orcas Island, which was wonderful. My grandpa lived up there, so experienced that. And the beauty of Orcas Island really triggered my love for art and desire to learn to paint better. So from there, I moved down to Olympia, and my aunt called me, and she said, "We have a job for you on Vashon Island at Camp Burton as art director." And I thought it was just a week to go do art with kids for a week. And so I did that, and she said, they asked if I could stay all summer, and I ended up there for 3 years as the art and recreation person. So that's where I discovered the meaning of art for children and families and teenagers. I had a little shack, an art shack with all this stuff in it, and I got to create a curriculum and kind of camp-related, nature-related, and it was on the water and trails. And so we did things at the beach and, in the woods. But we actually did, from my mom's art training that I experienced just years before, I was able to develop some actual art programs that she had done in her schooling. And so we actually learned drawing and painting, and so I learned more. So I decided that I should go and get some more training in art. So
nice. Was that something, as you were kind of building that and doing that, was it something that kind of all came naturally to you as you were building that stuff?
Yes, it did, because almost all my parents' friends were teachers, and almost all our relatives are teachers or pastors or something that were in a teaching role. So it just came naturally to me. So
nice.
It was easy for me, and I really love children, so that I saw some kids really benefit from that time doing art and expressing themselves, and saw their behavior change even. So that's where I thought about being an art therapist.
Okay.
That was one of my first goals as an artist, yeah.
Nice. So then when you decided to get more training, where'd you go then?
I'd already, during that time, I did my second year of school at Shoreline College and had some really good art instruction there. That was Shoreline Community. And started doing more art on my own. And then I applied for the University of Washington Art Department. And I got in there, and I was able to be there for a full year, a very productive year of painting and drawing, and did well and really enjoyed it, loved it. and then I got married.
Okay.
I was working at camp, Warm Beach Camp at the time as a horse wrangler.
Yeah.
And anyway, I met someone that we got married and went to Alaska. So I took off a few years from college. I had to come back years later and finish.
Okay. Very cool. What part of Alaska were you living in?
Mostly we were on boats fishing and doing tendering and and a yacht, doing, people coming up and enjoying being on the water. And that I was doing a lot of painting at those times because I'd already had instruction in college. So I had watercolor stuff and drawing with me.
Yeah.
So I started doing a lot of, scenery that I'd see. And then we lived at Kodiak for 3 years.
Oh, really?
I worked at a mission there with kids that were having troubles, and it was right on the water in a beautiful setting in Kodiak. And then we went out to a cannery and caretook the cannery for 2 years and worked there for 2 summers. So I painted almost every day when I was at the cannery. Yeah, because you have time.
Yeah. Very cool.
So.
Yeah, we actually did a guys trip. Me and 2 of my guy friends went out to Kodiak this last April. And we're out there. It was beautiful.
Yeah, that's rare. Not that many people end up going to Kodiak.
Yeah, well, so my friend's mom grew up in Kodiak.
Oh, great.
So she lived there, and then her brother, my friend's uncle, has a cabin there. That's kind of a family cabin. So we got to stay there, and it's off the grid. It doesn't have electricity, running water, or anything. So it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah.
We got to go out there, and we just did day hikes out of the cabin.
Were you afraid of bears?
No, I mean, when we looked up online, I was like, maybe we'll see one. But looking up, pretty much all the bears are on the other side of the island. So
good.
Yeah, we weren't too worried about that. We saw a couple deer as we were there, but that's about the only.
Yeah.
And then lots of eagles and stuff like that.
Well, I wanted to be a wildlife conservationist was my first goal before I decided I wanted to do art. And so I'm very into wildlife. So Kodiak was a great place.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of paintings there of wildlife and the flora and fauna and the scenery. And almost all my paintings sold before they were framed. It's an area where they actually buy art.
Yes.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love seeing the wildlife there and the wildflowers. And it's just beautiful.
Yeah. Well, when we were there in April, I feel like that's it was a perfect time to come because the mountains over there still had snow on them about halfway up, but the roads and everything were all clear.
Yep.
But it felt like you were driving at way higher elevation than you were because it felt like you were driving around mountaintops.
Yes.
Because they were all snow capped, but then halfway down was just regular road. But that was actually sea level.
Yeah, the mountains come up a lot faster there, right out of the sea almost. Yeah. So you get the winter feeling in the spring for sure.
Yeah. So it was very cool. I thought I definitely want to go back again.
Yeah, good. Awesome.
Nice.
Me too.
Nice. So then you guys moved, as you moved away from Kodiak, where did you say you guys moved then?
After Kodiak, we came down and we had some property here in Arlington area.
Okay.
And we actually bought an old homestead and built a little cabin and had no running water, electricity. And as we took the house apart and rebuilt it was going to be my art studio.
Okay.
But we ended up living there. You know how that goes. So we never did get power there. But anyway, it was quite an experience. I got to be a pioneer for a little while. And then I decided to go back to college and finish college. So that was when I went back to the University of Washington to finish my art degree.
Okay.
So lived down in Ballard and kind of tried to live up there at the property a little bit, but it was too tricky. So anyway, finished my art degree, and it's a general art degree. So I just did all kinds of stuff, and I just used my mom's education learning that I had with her to prepare myself for doing either art therapy or art teaching. I was going to make a decision about that afterwards. So I just started teaching art.
Okay.
Just started teaching art to homeschool kids, and we ended up buying a place on Camano here and started with the homeschool community teaching art, and I just loved it. So at the time, there were not really any jobs available for art teachers. They were all taken, and we wanted to live here, so I was like, I'm just going to start teaching art. So
yeah,
I never went back and got my teaching certificate.
Okay.
But I just used all the, what I'd learned about teaching and just started teaching. So
very cool.
Yeah.
Nice. What in the end, what was it kind of that prompted you to continue in the teaching of art rather than deciding to go into art therapy?
Well, the only programs for art therapy were either in Central or in Oregon or in Vermont, and so they were kind of hard to find a program that I could do that. I also, when I was in college, I did some volunteer work as an art therapist, and the one-on-one or groups and doing it all day long, I'm very empathic, and I like to work one-on-one with people.
Yep.
And it was just a little much to be with people that I really wanted to help, and I was just with them for a short period, and it just didn't quite fit me.
Yeah.
I found that teaching art where they don't think of me as a therapist, but they just enjoy learning, and we can talk, and they can explore their own gifts and have a way to express their feelings. It was therapy for them, but we just weren't calling it that.
Right.
And it just worked better for me to be a
Nice.
teacher rather than a therapist. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. So then when you started teaching with like homeschools, did you just do it like mom to mom? Like, did you just get in contact with people, or did you actually like have classes at your house?
I more either taught at their homes, and they'd get a group of kids together, and a parent that was interested in the arts would kind of arrange it, and then her kid would come at a lower price or for free.
Yeah.
And that would be our location. So I'd teach at their home, or I was at like the Cedar Home Baptist let me use their fellowship room, and we had quite a bigger group of people there.
Okay.
So we just did that, and then I got a job through the public school with Still-Guamish Valley School. Well, actually, prior to that, I'd been teaching adults too. I'd been teaching at the senior community centers.
Okay.
For years. Like at Stanwood Community, I taught there 10 years
Okay.
as a watercolor and drawing teacher.
Nice.
To the elderly people or any age. We had some homeschool teenagers that came to those classes. And
Yep.
it's an old schoolhouse. It's the old high school up on the hill in Stanwood.
Oh, very cool.
So we had this cool old schoolroom with a blackboard, and I really loved teaching there. And I may do that again. I really love that location and the venue of reaching out to seniors.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Nice.
And then I taught at SVS in Arlington.
Okay.
I think I did both those things at the same time for a while, but I taught for 17 years as an art teacher through the Arlington School District.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. And was the not having a teaching degree or anything, was that an issue, or?
Well, I was called a non-certified instructor, so I got to do everything. I just had to be careful about grading. We had to have somebody portfolio the grades that was a certified teacher that had art as one of their allowed, things that they could do. So, yeah, I got to teach professional, high school classes, but it was K-12. So I got to go all the way from little kids. And then I was teaching at the senior center for part of that time, too. So there'd be a week where I'd be from kindergarten to 90 years old. So it was a great experience to be part of the public school system, and yet it was a homeschool venue.
Nice.
And then I also helped start the school here in Stanwood called Saratoga.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we mostly just did, everything and art.
Okay.
So it was really fun. So
Nice.
that was part of that.
So you were part of like getting that off the ground and started then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, the district here in Stanwood Camano decided that they wanted a homeschool program, and it was a desire of the people and the teachers, and we met with the board, and it just started. I think the one in Arlington was a little bit of a model for it, but it was very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. So then, so you've taught a lot of different styles of art. What were the ones that you really like resonated with you, like whether watercolor or oil, drawing? What was kind of the ones that you enjoyed the most?
Drawing and watercolor and illustration is what I really love to do. I really love illustration as an artist, and I had a class in college at my senior year where it was like a independent study for illustration, and I had a wonderful instructor who directed me to illustrators. Like Carl Larson was one he thought I should study, so I studied him, and Beatrix Potter, and they are both watercolor painters.
Okay.
And it's a very common medium for illustration.
Yeah.
And so I'm also really into horse art and horse illustration. And so I just studied the different illustrators and how I've also done some graphic arts using the watercolor and drawing medium for logos and things for people's businesses. And it's just been really fun. It's been a really fun experience. Watercolor you can take anywhere.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do in our class this month. Is we're going to have 2 sessions where we learn about how to paint outdoors. Then we're going to go to the state park in Kama Beach and paint outside.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's just you pack everything in a backpack and you pull it out, and whatever water's there, you can use it. So you can take it out of the creek or whatever, and then you can paint what you see. You can draw and photograph, and then paint it again later. It's just such a versatile medium that really fits. Even backpacking. We went to Fiji, and I had a little backpack with all my art stuff in, and I had an extra set, and I'd give it to the kid, and we'd paint. And this kid would never painted before. He'd able to produce a nice painting because people are naturally talented in art.
Very
and
cool.
So it's such a portable medium, and it's so simple. It dries quickly, and
Yep.
it's not like a big canvas. You just have a piece of paper, and you can pack it away and use it later, make prints of it, make cards from it. So I just love the medium because of that.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love listening to different artists talk about like oil painting and acrylic and watercolor, and how each one has its own advantages and disadvantages, and how quite a few of them fall into one or the other of them because of the convenience.
Yeah.
I had Jed Dorsey on, and he was saying that like when he had kids and stuff like that, like oil just wasn't practical for him because he could never leave it out because and so he did acrylic, and so because acrylic he could get a whole painting done and then put it away.
Yep.
And so it's really fascinating to me. And then I talked with John Ebner, and he has a lot of fun fusing all of them together.
Right.
He mixes acrylic and watercolor. He mixes all sorts of stuff, and so he really likes trying to create a fusion of everything. So.
Yeah, I get that. Actually, when I taught art, we learned all the different mediums, everything. In fact, one year we did art history, and we started in ancient times and went up through the different mediums, where we started way back, the caves of Lascaux, and then Egypt, and then the Renaissance art, and to the present time. And we even did egg tempura and had Jack Gunther help us with the recipe.
Cool.
We had eggs everywhere, and so we were experiencing what it was like to be a painter of the time. So I really love all the mediums. It's just you can't do everything. I even love working in clay. So we taught clay and did firing of the work and all kinds of stuff. But watercolor is just my favorite.
Yeah.
It's just watercolor and drawing.
Yeah. No, that's great. Very cool. So then you were doing teaching in the school then what happened after that as you were teaching? Well,
the job kind of changed. The school district, that position of being a non-cert instructor got to be problematic for the politics. So, I phased into teaching as a paraeducator for 5 years at the Arlington School District. And so I kept the same hours and just went, but it was a wonderful experience. Got to teach ancient history to sixth graders and writing with seventh graders. And then I was 4 years in elementary school as a assistant teacher, and I just loved it. I didn't realize how much I'd love it.
Yeah.
I did recess with the kids, and so we did some art, of course. Different times they'd want to do art, and we'd do art. And just love getting to know all those ages of kids on that different venue. And so that's what I did for a while. And then since then, I've just been teaching private classes through the gallery in town, the Stanwood House Gallery.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm just on my own with people. When people want to have a class, I've taught privately for teenagers or anybody that wants to do art. I'm in the phone book as an art teacher, so people find me. And I get to teach with my grandkids and do art with my mom, who's an artist. And it's just a wonderful thing to do.
Nice.
So now I'm planning to make it more of a priority as I retire. I'm not full-time with the school district anymore.
Okay.
Or as an employer of the school district anymore. I'm just I sub there, but I'm more wanting to just get back into teaching more in the community here.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Very cool. So apart from being a teacher and an artist, you also have gotten involved in real estate. How did that come about?
That was something when we came to Camano Island. We wanted to not be running up to Alaska and stuff. We adopted a daughter, and we wanted to stay put. So we started to just do real estate to have a job that we could really enjoy. The things that we understood and valued, which is, having a home and land and we learned a lot about it by having the little cabin in the woods and buying property and subdividing. And it's just an interest that's been in my family, too.
Yeah.
My family's very interested in buying and selling homes. My dad's kind of second career was fixing up houses and reselling them and building houses. And so it was just something. My mom's a decorator and designer of homes, and it's just in my family. So, yeah, I just, we work together and we're able to really enjoy. This is a great place to be a real estate agent, obviously.
Yeah.
It's just so much variety in the homes and the properties. And yeah, I really have enjoyed it. So
nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. And then what are, you talked a little bit about this, but what are the things that are, I guess, that inspire your art that you're bringing to the Loft this month?
Mm-hmm. It's kind of a history of my art. There's a painting with 2 eagles flying, and that's from an inspiration from being in Alaska. When we went through southeast Alaska, you see these beautiful inlets and the mist and the trees coming out and these eagles. It's just like you just never forget it. So that was actually painted from memory.
Okay.
And I added the eagles from some photos that we'd taken. When you're on fishing boats, eagles like to hang out, so you get some good photographs. So, yeah, and then there's a picture of my view from my home on South Camano and a picture on the San Juan Islands. A friend I used to visit, she moved about 4 times in San Juan Island, and everywhere she moved, I did a couple paintings, and she's an artist from Kodiak, actually, that we ended up staying in touch. And so that's meaningful to me. It's one of her places she lived. And so they're all pictures of things that are meaningful to me through the years. And yeah, I have a picture of a fairy on a rhododendron, and that was a private art class to a young girl that she loved fairies. So, and the Dorsey family and their fairies, of course, I've been influenced by that. And so just a little bit, that's my kind of illustration side. And yeah, so it's just a little bit of each kind of art. And one's of a stream called Living Water that I painted from a black and white photo that is kind of meaningful to me. The concept of living water is I just love streams. We don't have a lot of streams here on Camano, so I have to go hiking to see streams. And the islands had a lot of streams, and so those are just different things that are meaningful to me. I just picked them out; they seem to go together. So nice.
Well, very cool. Yeah, for sure. People that are listening to this month, be sure to come up to the Loft and check it out. Very cool. Well, I like to end every podcast with some rapid-fire questions.
Okay.
So the first one is, what purchase of $100 or less have you enjoyed the most over the last 3 months?
I actually forgot to look at these questions, so I am trying to remember. I actually haven't purchased hardly anything in the last 3 months.
Oh, okay.
I don't really know. I'm sorry.
No.
I bought a watermelon.
That's good, especially in this heat. It's great fruit to get right now.
Yeah.
All right. Pretend you have a friend coming from out of town. What would their first day look like here?
Oh, well, I'm thinking of, right now I'm kind of preparing to go to the state park. I think I would like to take him to Cama Beach for lunch and go down there and see the old cabins and I love that park. Yeah. So I would probably go there, and then we'd hang out at my house and pet the horses and just kind of maybe go down to the beach and see the sunset. So yeah, I think or maybe go to the Loft and check out be tourists a little bit and have a good coffee.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Who is an interesting or fascinating person in this community that I should interview next?
Oh, boy. I would say Jack Dorsey. Have you interviewed Jack Dorsey yet?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's Jed's dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I met him when I first came to the island. We went to a little church called Mabana, and he was working at Boeing at the time and really sad that he didn't have enough time to paint. We used to talk about it quite a bit. And now he's back into his painting, bringing out his old work and having shows, and it's just so exciting to see him grow. He just has a lot of knowledge and history.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very cool. All right, and lastly, what piece of advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
To stay open to listening to all different kinds of people and to learn from everything I do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
You're welcome. I really appreciated you having me do this.
Yeah, so this has been good.
Good to get to know you also.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, and Islanders, I will talk to you on the next one. Well, a big thank you to Bobbi Samples for joining me on the podcast today, and thank you for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us be found by other islanders like yourself. And for more information on this episode, you can go to CamanoCommons.com/podcast. That's CamanoCommons.com/podcast. Thanks for listening and see you next time.